All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er update. Never a dull moment in 49er land. Of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. Get some brisket. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Tell them that Krug sent you. And this video is also brought to you by Mancini's Sleep World. And we'll tell you more about our newest sponsor in just a moment. But first, Drake Jackson on the PUP injured reserve, meaning his season is over. He's having knee problems. He can't get right. Hurt the knee quite a while ago. It's not responding. I'm not sure what the next step is for Drake. You know, he had 3 sacks last year in week 1 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And by week 7, his season was over. He's a great guy. He can play inside or outside. I think he could have been kind of like Arden Key, kind of that interior rusher in the NASCAR package. He had the ability to bat down passes. So this is really a damaging injury for the 49ers. On paper, the Niners look like they're going to go with 10 defensive linemen, and that would be 5 defensive tackles and 5 defensive ends. Well, 3 of them at defensive end are going to be Nick Bosa, Leonard Floyd, and Yatir Gross-Matos. But Robert Beal Jr. and Drake Jackson, in whatever order, were supposed to be defensive end 4 and 5. And there's not a lot of depth behind those guys. Beal is a raw player. He's flashed some athleticism, but he's very, very raw. And I think the 49ers were very much hoping that Drake Jackson was going to come of age and become this incredible player this year. And now the fact that he's on the PUP IR and will miss all of 2024, it's not going to happen. All I'll say is, my thoughts and prayers go to Drake because there is no better dude. Great guy. I love talking to this guy. One of my favorite guys to talk to in the entire locker room. Great dude. Wish nothing but the best for him. I think there's a career still coming for Drake. Drake, if you're watching this video, it's a setback. It's not the end of the road. So keep fighting, my friend. Love Drake Jackson. I think he's got a lot of talent. I think he's going to be a good NFL player. He's just going to have to overcome some physical issues and hurdles at the beginning of his career. But Drake, keep fighting, man, because you're a hell of a player. The Niners, of course, had to take him off their roster because he's unable to play. They put him on that PUP injured reserve list. So that opened up a roster spot on their 90-man camp roster, and they signed Jonathan Garvin, the former Miami Hurricane, to the roster. And so, he was with Green Bay. He was a 7th-round pick by Green Bay in 2020. This is a guy who didn't work out well. He was a good player at University of Miami. He really was. He was a 4-star high school recruit. His nickname is Spider. And he was a good player for the Hurricanes. He's 6'4", 265. In a lot of ways, the ideal length that you're looking for. But then in the lead up to the draft, he just didn't work out that well. He ran 4.82. 23 reps, though, of 225 is great strength. 36-inch vertical shows great explosion. But that 4.82 is just super slow. And Green Bay nabbed him in the 7th round in 2020. So Gutekunst, saw something he liked there. Garvin's done some nice things as a rusher. I'm eager to see what he looks like in this, Chris Kasarik wide 9, get up the field and put heat on the quarterback. I think he's the kind of guy that can bend the edge. I haven't studied him since he was a Hurricane. He was a damn good college football edge rusher. Didn't see a lot of him with Green Bay. So I'm eager to see what Garvin looks like in a 49er uniform in the preseason. So that's one guy I'll definitely be honing in on. But there you go. Take note of that. Drake Jackson out, Jonathan Garvin in. We mentioned to you we have a brand new sponsor. We're sponsored by Mancini's Sleep World. Mancini Sleep World, a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. We just got our Mancini's Sleep World bed the other day, and we're loving it. Loving it. Oh, my God. My wife actually needs to, jump up into the bed. There she goes. She just walked by in the video. She's got to jump. She almost needs a ladder to climb into this bed. But what can I say? Mancini's Sleep World, fantastic bed. It is fantastic. We're loving it. She's loving it. I'm loving it. Mancini's offers a 120-night guarantee with a range of brands and price points. With Mancini's, you can get free next-day delivery. Click the link below or go to sleepworld.com and find a bed that works for you. Whether you're shopping online or visiting in-store, all you got to do to support the show is use the code Krug10 and you'll get 10% off your total purchase. So that's a great value. Krug10, Krug 10 and get 10% off at in-store or online at sleepworld.com. Again, once again, it's Krug 10 to get 10% off at Mancini's Sleep World, both in-store and online at sleepworld.com. And thanks to Mancini's for sponsoring the Krug Show. All right, let's hear from Diana, or let's talk a little bit about Diana Russini. The former ESPN NFL reporter tweeted out that the 49ers, to this point, have not been satisfied with the offers that they're getting from the Pittsburgh Steelers for Brandon Aiyuk, and that the Niners want a wide receiver in return for Aiyuk. Now, this is interesting because the Niners, of course, began this training camp loaded at wide receiver. I mean, they're literally 12 deep at wide receiver. But Jacob Cowing has struggled with a hamstring. Ricky Pearsall has struggled to stay healthy. And maybe they don't feel as confident in Danny Gray, who's been seemingly using the soft tissue massage machine on his quads and hammies and calves. And he just looks like a muscle pull waiting to happen. Tay Martin has had his moments. Chris Conley's had his moments. Ronnie Bell's had his moments. There's a lot of different receivers in this camp, but the 49ers, according to Diana Russini, want a receiver back in a trade that sends Brandon Aiyuk out. And I think the bottom line is, I don't think the Steelers are offering George Pickens, and I don't think the 49ers are satisfied with Calvin Austin. So, maybe it's a deal where the 49ers get James Daniels and Nick Herbig and a second-round pick and could flip that second-round pick to Denver for, their wide receiver, maybe to Cincinnati for, T. Higgins, maybe to the Raiders for Devontae, maybe to Denver for Cortland Sutton. I think those are the three receivers. Sutton, to me, makes the most sense. If you could get a pick from Pittsburgh and turn it around to Denver and get Sutton. Sutton's not as dynamic as Aiyuk, but he's bigger, and he's got great ball skills. He's an outstanding young receiver. There's no question about that. T. Higgins is an outstanding young receiver as well. I don't know what Cincinnati wants in return. Could you get T. Higgins for a second-round pick from the Steelers or a third-round pick from the Steelers and flip that to Cincinnati? What do the Raiders want for Devontae? Then if you did get that pick and flipped him to for Devontae, could you turn around and trade Devontae to the Jets? I know the Jets badly want Devontae to pair with Aaron Rodgers. And the Jets have Will McDonald and Michael Clemens and some defensive ends that would be very, very nice if you're the 49ers, in addition to some other receivers, including a great young player from Ohio State. So there's a lot of options. But Diana Russini has tweeted out the 49ers are not satisfied by what the Steelers are offering for Brandon Aiyuk, that they want a receiver in return. I don't believe the Steelers are offering Pickens. I don't believe the Niners want Calvin Austin. So can they get draft pick compensation? Can they find a third team to spin Steeler day 2 draft picks potentially around so they get a receiver to replace Brandon Aiyuk? Maybe the Browns. Maybe you could turn it around on the Browns and get Amari Cooper. Who knows? There's maybe some receivers we're not thinking of that maybe are available. that, just are known to NFL general managers but are unknown to the public. That happens a lot. You'd have to look at the depth charts around the NFL and see who's got the surplus that might be willing to move. Jacksonville, would they be willing to move Christian Kirk? I think that's an interesting team to watch as well. So there you go. Diana Russini tweeting out 49ers are not satisfied. That's really what's holding this up. A lot of speculation out of Pittsburgh is that the Niners and Steelers already agreed to the terms of the deal and that we're just waiting on the contract details to be finalized between Brandon's agent, Ryan Williams, and Omar Khan, the Steelers general manager. But it seems like that's not the case, in that, it sounds like while the Niners are open to players at other positions, they would like a receiver back, and that makes you think that they're looking for a draft choice that they can flip for a third receiver. And let's also hear from Colin Cowherd. Cowherd weighs in here. Cowherd's very strong, has a strong opinion, and he's basically warning Brandon Aiyuk, like, be careful what you wish for, buddy. Things will not be as good elsewhere as they are in San Francisco. Let's hear from Cowherd, and we'll comment on it next. Here's Colin Cowherd on his show, voicing this opinion about where Brandon Aiyuk should play next.
Brandon Aiyuk, according to stories, the Niners are just about fed up with Brandon Aiyuk and how he's acting at practice. So Brandon Aiyuk will never play in his career if he leaves San Francisco with a better offensive coach. Mike Tomlin is not a better coach at getting receivers open. He'll never have more moderate weather, may never have a better roster, may never win 72% of his games. He could go to worse weather, a tougher conference, a worse roster, shakier ownership, don't have the same head coach, double team now on every possession. It's a choice. San Francisco would likely pay him $23 million a year. He wants $26.5. Davante Adams made that choice. From a Hall of Fame quarterback, continuity, winning every Sunday, to the Raiders, the opposite in all of them. Tyreek Hill, remember when he mattered in January and February? Hey, but he got the bag. But he's irrelevant when it matters now. He watches the games like all of us on television. San Francisco, in my opinion, is a top 2 or 3 place in the NFL for a receiver currently. Why? Well, the play-action game's always available because they always have a strong running game. So safeties can't cheat, linebackers can't cheat, always have a good running game. Also, you have a brilliant offensive coach who schemes people open. You ever watch the Rams and wonder, how the hell is Cooper Kupp so wide open? You ever watch the Niners and think, why is George Kittle so wide open? Is he a burner? That's what offensive coaches do. Defensive coaches don't. Also, let's be honest, the Niners, and Aiyuk is part of this, but last year the Steelers were 26th in the NFL. Now think about this. 26th in the National Football League in big plays. San Francisco was 1. Do you think that's all just roster, or do you think the coaches have something to do with it? Also, offensive coaches like McVay, Andy Reid, usually rebuild shaky offensive lines faster or running games faster. Has Tomlin figured out how to create a run game in the last 5 years? Because that's the rumor where he's going, Pittsburgh. Also, with Kyle Shanahan, you often are playing in games where you lead late. You may take some reps off. You're going to get big guaranteed money in both. But it is built for wide receivers. Scheming people open, brilliant head coach, not totally dependent on you, a big run game for play action. It is a choice. But hey, go make $5 million more and live in Cleveland and try to sell that $9 million mansion. Ask LeBron. In San Francisco, you can sell that $8 million house in about 15 minutes. That's all choices. I don't begrudge either. But is your agent telling you, and are the smart people around you telling you, you think it's a coincidence that Puka Nacua as a 5th-round pick is a home run with Sean McVay and the Rams, or George Kittle and Jennings for the Niners as 5th and 6th-round picks are incredibly formidable. It's what offensive coaches do. Offensive schemes do. Brandon Aiyuk can make $4 million elsewhere. Go get the bag. I think this is just about as good a place for a receiver to be.
So there you go. And I mean, I understand exactly what Cowherd's saying. I mean, and you could go back in time. I mean, Eric Dickerson at once upon a time had a pretty sweet deal running behind a great line in LA with the Rams. Wanted more money, wound up with the Colts. A couple years later, he's hurt and out of the league. Losing football there's a price that you have to pay for losing football. And oftentimes you're paying in the price of pain. I mean, it's just painful. It's painful to lose in football. And, Brandon Aiyuk is going to be paid more, but he'll also be, fed the ball more, and he'll take more hits, and his usage will be up, but he'll probably have a shorter career because of that usage. So, I mean, there's a trade-off one way or another. I think Brandon Aiyuk is fully aware of what, of his value and what he brings to the table. And I'm sure he'll bring a lot to the table with the Steelers. If that winds up being his next destination, it's a great organization. They got great weapons. They just rebuilt their line in one draft. They'll figure it out at some of their other spots. And if they still have a great defense, they'll contend for titles. But his best chance to win a Super Bowl, without a doubt, is staying in San Francisco. And yet he really wants to be either a Steeler or a Commander and get that big bag, or a bigger bag than he could get in San Francisco. So I understand what Cowherd's saying. You got Shanahan, you've got Kittle and McCaffrey and other weapons, and you're not the focus of a team's defense. And you blend in on a deep, talented football team, and now you're going to be asked to do more. And I understand exactly what he's saying. I don't know that I subscribe to that theory that he's going to rue the day that he left the Niners. I don't know that I agree with that. At the end of the day, I do think Brandon Aiyuk's a very good receiver. He's an all-around receiver. He blocks in the run game. He's not a diva. He's a legitimate, tough guy, blocker, lunch pail guy. It's a little surprising that he's gone to these great lengths to secure the biggest bag, because he seems like a team-first guy. But you know what? I won't even fault him for it. In the NFL, it only lasts for so long. Kev said it the other night. We were leaving the A's game. He said, hey, look, these football players, they don't get to play forever. They got to make that last for 30 years. And it really is true. If you really look at what these guys make, but how long they play and how long that's supposed to last them and support their family, they're not like baseball players. They're not like basketball players. So I don't ever question the player that says, hey, I got to go for this as much as I can, because in a lot of ways you do. In a lot of ways you do. So I don't fault Brandon at all for wanting to make as much money as he can make. Now the question is, can John Lynch and the 49ers turn this into a win-win? Because we know Brandon going to Pittsburgh, getting the ball more, being the focal point, being loved by that great fan base, being on a terrific team, and getting a ton of money, he's a winner in this. Now the question is, are the Niners going to be a winner in this? And we won't know until we see what they have coming back via trade and what John Lynch can potentially turn that into. So that is the latest. Nothing new. According to Diana Russini, Niners are not happy with what the Steelers have offered, want a wide receiver, trying to engage a third team to get that wide receiver and make a deal that's equitable. I would imagine they will find a partner within the next 24 hours, and my guess is by the weekend, this is a done deal, and Brandon Aiyuk's going to be a Steeler. Why? Because it's go time. It's time to make this happen. It's go time for the Steelers. It's go time for the Niners. It is time to either sign back and get on the field and get ready for the year, or part ways. and go in a different direction. And everybody makes the best of it. So there you go. Thanks to Pig in a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Mancini's Sleep World for sponsoring this video. Mancini's Sleep World, a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. Once again, whether you're shopping online or visiting in store, use the code KRUG10 and get 10% off at Mancini's Sleep World. And that's in store or online at sleepworld.com. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.